Chapter 12. Kayla stood in the doorway studying her mother, who sat in front of the computer in the den. She'd gotten so much older looking in such a short time. The open file on the monitor in front of her read, Joseph Reed, Department of Human Resources, FBI. Silently, Kayla stepped into the room behind her and began to read. The file contained statistics on her father. 5'11", brown hair, size 11 shoe. "This is Dad's FBI file? How did you get into it?" she asked. Mrs. Reed jumped. She hadn't heard Kayla come in. "Someone emailed me the password to open this. The person just signed it, a friend. I tried to reply, but the message came back saying the sender was not a known address." "So, what's in there?" Not waiting for an answer, Kayla kept reading. The file named her father's blood type, his cholesterol level, his standing heart rate, his bone density. Then came another barcode. It was different from the first barcode at the top of the screen, which was the barcode that appeared on his wrist. Why were there two of them? A series of coded letters and numbers appeared beneath the second barcode. Slowly, Kayla realized, based on graphs she'd seen in her science textbooks, that the second code was a gene sequence, a series of genes appearing next to one another represented as a barcode. In science this fall, they'd studied how genetics used a barcode to show a sequence of genes. The number alphabet code beneath listed individual genes. Kayla continued reading. Advantages: IQ 115. Genes found for heightened power of logic, visual acuity, above average spatial relations, color sensitivity, creativity, fit musculature, longevity. Questionable: possessing both positive and negative aspects. Genes found for empathy, mental, psychic tendencies, low levels of extrasensory perception, liabilities. Genes found for alcoholism, iconoclastic tendencies, delusional, hallucinatory schizophrenia. Kayla looked at her mother. "Dad didn't drink, and he wasn't schizophrenic," she said. A bitter smile spread across her mother's face. "Knowing what I already know, it should have been plain." "What?" Kayla shouted. "What do you know?" Mrs. Reed grabbed Kayla's wrist. "Good, you haven't gotten that damn tattoo. No matter what you do, don't let them make you get it. It's the law, Mom, haven't you heard? I could be arrested now for not having a barcode." "I don't care," her mother replied passionately. "Why, Mom? Please tell me what you know," Kayla pleaded. Her mother got up from her desk chair and walked to the window. "No, I can't. It's better if you don't know." Kayla grabbed her mother's arm. "How can it be better? I can't talk about this," Mrs. Reed said angrily, hurrying to the front door. She went out, barefoot, into the rainy evening. The computer screen blacked out. White letters appeared on the screen. Access denied. Kayla sprang to the door. "Mom!" she called. "Come back!" She ran down the front walkway after her, but her mom had gone out of the front gate and was walking quickly down the street. Tears came to Kayla's eyes, but what was the use of crying? Her mother was no help to her anymore. She might as well just accept that. Ashley Reed was in a world all of her own, haunted by private demons Kayla might never know about. "Anything I can do?" A familiar voice made her turn. Ezekiel was behind her. Obviously, he'd come from the other side of the street and had seen some of this humiliating scene. "Hi, why are you here?" she said, quickly wiping her eyes. "I don't have your number. I came to tell you we're having an emergency meeting. You heard the news today, right?" "Yeah." "Want to hang out at my place until the meeting at 6? "Can't. I have to work." "I'll walk you there." "What about Nedra? Someone might see us together." "We're just walking together," he said with a shrug. "I'm getting sick of this." "Tell her about us, then." He looked past her, thinking, "It's less than a month now. It will be easier to just let her fade away." "Easier for you," Kayla said, "not easier for me." "I'm sure she knows something's up." "You're right. I'll tell her tonight." "Really?" "Yes, after the meeting." "Come inside with me," she said. "I want you to see something." Taking his hand, she led him into the house and brought him to the computer. Access denied still floated on the screen's black background. "Don't you have any idea how to get back into the file?" "What is it?" he asked. "My father's FBI file." He looked at her wide-eyed. "The code thinks that may be the database used by the barcode. You actually saw it?" She nodded. Everything about him was in there. He sat down and began punching the keyboard. I'm a pretty fair hacker," he said. "Let me have a crack at this." Kayla had the file on her mind as she walked across the parking lot to Artie's art supply an hour later. Ezekiel had gotten in, but for only a minute. It was long enough, though, for him to see the file. "That's it," he said. "This is the big secret they don't want us to know." "The genetic code," she suggested. "Absolutely," he agreed. "Your whole genetic code is in there. They know everything about you. Everything." She rattled the glass door to Artie's. The sign on the front door read "Closed." The store was dark, although she always worked on Thursdays at 4. "Artie," she shouted, banging on the glass. "It's me. Open up." Artie, his wife, and their 2 kids lived on the 2nd floor. Walking around back and up the steps to the porch on the 2nd floor, she peered in the windows. The furniture was still there, but the apartment was dark. In the distance, a siren screamed, and Kayla tucked her fingers around the end of her jacket sleeve, hiding her wrist. Where was Artie? Why hadn't he opened the store? Kayla walked back to the street and got on a bullet bus headed for Ezekiel's apartment down in Peekskill. Ezekiel lived in a rundown apartment near the Global Track station. Now boarded shut, Victor's tattoo parlor had once operated on the bottom floor. Kayla climbed the wooden back steps and banged on the door. "It's open," he shouted. She stepped inside and found him sitting in the one main room at the table in front of his large old-style computer. Instead of looking at the screen, he was reading a thick book, a manual. He looked up at her and grinned. "Hey, I thought you were working," he said. "Artie's was closed. I don't know why," she explained. "That's weird," he replied, turning towards her in his seat. "What are you reading?" she asked. Without waiting for his reply, she flipped the open book to its cover. "Tattoo Generation, a Manual of Pride." She questioned him with her eyes. A friend got this to me so I could see what we're up against," he explained. "It's banged out stuff. These people are totally convinced that the barcode is the way to an exciting new future." Kayla opened the middle of the manual and scanned the page. You influence by example, of course. Proudly supporting your tattoo is the best assurance that it will gain prestige in the eyes of the undecided. But direct influence is also an effective way to persuade your friends and family that there is nothing to fear from the tattoo. The resistance person will often have an unwarranted suspicion of direct persuasion. That is why it's best to take an indirect approach. Do not reveal your mission, but rather, in a friendly way, point out the futility of remaining untattooed. Those who can neither buy nor sell face a future of certain failure. By pointing this out, you plant the seeds of productive thought among those resistant to the tattoo. Also, point out that going against the wishes of the United States is unpatriotic. That is every citizen's duty to comply with the wishes of its government. Complying is not only patriotic, it's also an attractive trait. The untattooed person risks social ostracism. He or she openly demonstrates that he or she is not a team player. This will be enough to persuade most people that remaining untattooed is a liability they do not wish to incur. Special operatives may be permitted to remain untattooed for the express purpose of winning the confidence of the untattooed. Their records will remain on file at Tattoo Generation headquarters for a period of no more than 1 year. After that time, the agent is expected to become tattooed and carry on his or her duties as an exemplar of the barcoded life. Kayla looked up at Ezekiel. "This is scary. Why do they care if everyone is tattooed? Can't we all just do what we want?" Ezekiel sighed. "This thing is huge now," he said. "It might be more than we can fight." Kayla had never heard him speak like this. He was usually so confident. His doubt worried her. Was he giving in? Had this new ruling about a required barcode shaken him that deeply? "What about Senator Young?" she asked. "You still believe in decode, don't you?" Getting up, he slapped the Tattoo Generation manual shut. "Dave Young tried, but look what just happened. It's depressing. And after today, seeing what I saw in your father's file, I don't know." Ezekiel gently drew her up from the chair. "Let's talk about it over here," he said, leading her to his faded futon couch. They sat, and he pressed his weight against her until she was laying back beneath him on the futon. She wrapped her arms around his neck and closed her eyes, and let his warm lips press down on her. They rolled together there, straining against each other. Outside, the rain came down with a steady beat, beat. ... She is outside the white wall. People around her have fallen to the ground, knocking back by the blast. The man with her is very near. She still can't see him clearly. There's smoke in the air. Fighter jets are above them, but no more explosives drop. "Send it away," the man says to her telepathically. She sees the people around her are looking up at the jet. Their eyes stare at it, unwavering. She stares at the jet, too. Go away, go away, go away, she tells its pilot, thinking hard on her message. The jet turns and disappears behind some clouds. The people stream towards an opening in the wall. No one speaks, but she hears their cries clearly in her head. This way into the city, hurry! She is running, following the others towards the opening in the wall. ... He'd stopped moving on top of her. Kayla, where are you? He asked, sounding offended. You're not here with me. Opening her eyes, she drank in his beautiful face. I am here, I am. Really, I'm with you. She pulled him to her and held him close, hoping he would never leave her. Don't worry, she said. I love you. They had all arrived at the warehouse meeting except Nedra. For once, Kayla was as anxious for her to come. Tonight, Ezekiel would tell Nedra that his relationship with her was over. After the afternoon she had spent with him, Kayla didn't think she could go on another minute sharing him with anyone else. We'll have to start without her, August said, after a 10-minute wait. We have to completely rethink the next issue of the zine. It's got to be much more forceful, and we need to think about what we'll do if things get worse. We're in an emergency now, and... The warehouse door banged open. Nedra strode across the warehouse. The unfamiliar clack of her footsteps told Kayla that Nedra wore high heels with the straight skirt she had on. Nedra didn't usually dress like this. As she came into their circle of light, Kayla saw that Nedra's arms and legs were covered up and down with colorful, swirling tattoos. It was impossible to tell if they were permanent or not. Nedra turned seductively in a circle, displaying her new body art. She saddled up next to Ezekiel and extended her leg through a slit in the skirt. His name was emblazoned in purple up its side. He stared up at it, then at Nedra. She smiled coolly back at him. What's going on, Nedra? Allison asked. I wanted you to see the new me, she replied. The brand new me, she added, stretching her arms wide. A hushed gasp ran through the group. A barcode tattoo was clearly visible on her right wrist. I don't believe you did that, Ezekiel said to her. I'm not getting arrested, not this girl. In fact, I'm out of here. Ezekiel, you better come with me. Ezekiel got up and walked out with Nedra.